Hello, we are live with another edition of The Intersection. I'm Neville Wright, and I'm here with Elsa M. Say hello to the people.
Hi, everybody. How are you? We are
waiting for
live in Google Hang Suite. So when I ask you something, it's actually not a rhetorical question. You can respond back right here in our chat messages, right in real time. So we'll be talking to you guys. So if you're watching, you got a question, or you just want to chime in, give us your 2 cents right there, and the chat message is off to your right.
And we are waiting, of course, for our stereotypically culturally late other co-host, Jeff Johnson, who may point sometime. and I think Ty is in Milan. So depending on her internet connection at Milan Fashion Week, we may hear from her too. But we're always going to come to you every week, whether it's 2 of us or 4 of us, to kind of give you the topics that we want. So
yeah. And I am on Periscope again, even after I said I wasn't going to do it at the same time. So, hi, Periscope.
Absolutely. I'm on Periscope as well. And this is a multi-channel show. We coming to you at every platform possible. So, what we talk about this week? What's in the news?
Well, I mean, first things first is, I shouldn't say first things first. Of course, we got to talk about Donald Trump. But we're going to start out a little lighter because he just makes me very angry. And I want to work up to the anger. So let's start out with, something else that sort of makes me angry. The Oscars. The Oscars are tonight. I don't know how many of you guys are watching this evening. Are you watching, Navarro? Or are you doing the boycott?
No, I am going to watch for a little bit. I think my take on it is a little different than I think most people. I think, while I understand everybody has some issues. I think this started from a place of selfishness. Like, I think if you think about it, if Will Smith gets nominated for concussion, we don't have Oscar So White, because Jada's not getting up and putting her camera up if Will's nominated. That's my opinion. What's your thought? I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. Okay. So I see what you're saying. Hold on a second. Periscope, I'm showing them the door instead of myself. Hold on. Hey, Periscope, you there? There you go. Sorry. All right, so we're talking about the Oscars. Oscars So White.
Yep.
I see where you're going with that, because, of course, it all started when Jada Pinkett Smith said that she was tired of African Americans being overlooked for these prestigious awards in acting. A lot of people just were saying that was because Will Smith was not nominated for Concussion. As a woman who is married into a Nigerian family, I'm Ethiopian myself, I thought that his accent was horrendous. So I'm not on the Will Smith bandwagon in this role, at least. I think that he's an incredible actor, but I do think that there is validity in what Jada was saying, not necessarily for Will. I mean, I think sometimes the impetus for a movement can have sort of interesting roots. Like maybe it wasn't all, it wasn't from a perspective that wasn't entirely selfless, but I do feel like there is some validity in what Jada was saying. I mean, you don't just get an award because you're Black. You don't just get an award because you're white. But I mean, when I think, have you seen Beasts of No Nation? I mean, that movie was phenomenal. And to not even be nominated, to me, I don't know if it was necessarily a racist thing, like I'm not going to nominate a Black actor. I don't think it was that. I think when you don't have Black people in the Academy that are actually voting at this level, it's not even on their radar that, okay, this is a movie that actually needs to have a second eye or needs to be nominated or what have you. So I think her call was just, I think it's skewed because it's coming from Jada and her husband was not nominated. But I mean, I do totally, I'm behind it. Now, as far as boycotting, I don't know. For some reason, it just doesn't sit right with me this year to watch. I don't know if that's an active, I'm boycotting, but there's just too much around it that I'm just like, I can stay out of this one. But I do want Leo to win tonight. So it is bittersweet. So I'll have to watch that on YouTube later.
So let me counter
yes
your a little bit. So So I agree with everything you said, right? I agree that this year there were amazing performances by actors of color in a multitude of films that didn't get recognized. But that wasn't my point. Wasn't even that. My point was that specifically around Jada's initiation of the boycott. And I argue, just from my own historical knowledge of working at BET when Will and Jada hosted the BET Awards and a whole lot of backdoor stuff, that if Will's nominated, she's not making that video. That's my point, right? So to your point,
I get it.
If you're holistically standing up against the Academy, that's one thing. But if you're, protecting your boo, that's a whole nother thing. And I think it was more just in line of how they operate. I think it was more of protecting her boo, which is nothing wrong with that. But don't make it that it's this holistic campaign that you want to marshal everyone around. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing is I look at it from a bunch of perspectives. So as we all know, the Oscars have never been our thing, right? It's something we I mean, if you look at the numbers, we're in single digits in terms of African Americans who have won any award. So it's not news that the Oscars is not our award show, right? But at the end of the day, any actor in Hollywood will tell you it's a big deal when they get invited to the Oscars because they know that getting that award or getting nominated changes their pay scale, it changes the type of roles they get, etc. My other argument is, don't shortchange. Like, everyone's mad at the end of the day that the guy from Creed didn't get nominated, right? I don't know if
Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah, I don't. I'm old. I forget names all the time. So I don't necessarily believe. I saw Creed. I liked it. It was entertaining. I don't necessarily believe that his performance was on par with some of the other actors you mentioned. But at the end of the day, he got invited. So basically what you're doing is asking him on the first time in his young career that he ever got invited to the Oscar Awards to not go, right? And you're putting him in a situation that if he doesn't go, he's not showing some level of solidarity. So I think when we do these things, we have to look at every vantage point. And then people were even saying that Chris Rock shouldn't even host. And I didn't agree with that, because at the end of the day, if we're not there, we're making a statement, but we're not affecting them. But he has more power on that stage tonight than he would if he had quit and said he wasn't going to stay home. And from knowing and seeing Chris Rock's work, you best believe he's going to intertwine this in a way that's going to make it memorable and make it livable because of who he is. So that's my thing. I think if and then that's my whole thing. I think if Will's nominated, Jada doesn't make that video. I think there's very few other people who would be willing to step up on their own merit to make that video. Sure. And I think that they didn't think holistically about everyone who's involved and who they may be shortchanging. Now, in addition, do I agree with everything else you said? Yes, there were great performances that should have gotten nominated. And what has to change is the voting body has to be diverse. I mean, I think the topic across the country this year is every area where there's power and influence needs to become more diverse. The Oscars is just another one. So that's just so I agree with you, but I just think the way it started came from a self-motivated place. And
I don't disagree with that, but I do feel like just because something started in a way that could be self-motivated for one doesn't mean that it doesn't have validity for other people. So I do get it. I do get the whole, Aunt Viv came in like gangbusters, just calling everybody out. And again,
that was.
A little bitter. Just a tidbit bitter.
That was. I haven't had a job since Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and now let me use this as an opportunity to get some media play.
Ooh, I just want to give her a hug. She has to let that go. At this point, too grown for this.
Now, the other thing about this whole Oscar so white that we didn't talk about is the race to create the Black Oscars between Russell Simmons and BET. So I don't know if you saw this week.
No.
That BET had the BET ABFF honors that they threw together in a heartbeat to recognize Black actors. Now, they only did that after Russell had already announced that he was doing his All Deaf Digital Award. So it was like a race to put something up to be to say we did something. But again, the point I make is if we felt that was a void, that void's always been there. So the networks like BET, the networks like TV One should have done that anyway. And let's see if they do that consistently. Like, if that's the case, then every year they should be there and we should move forward. But my fear is it was a ratings jump, right? And it wasn't even original. Like, I give Russell credit. Nobody thought to do it until he came up with it. And then 2 days later, they, because they have a studio, they made theirs together. So, I'm a little, I think that's why I'm like, if you think about advocacy in this country, it kind of peaks and valleys. I want to see consistent advocacy towards an issue. Like, I want to see this issue not go away in 2 weeks when the Oscars comes up, or if next year we get 3 nominations, then no one's complaining. Because to your point, there's not enough people, there's not enough diversity in the voting. So, but what we do is we make big noise, and then when something else comes up, we disappear.
I agree. I didn't want to cut you off there.
No, I appreciate it.
I feel like, one more award show. I mean, I'm not mad at it. I mean, I get it. Nothing's going to have the cachet that the Oscars have.
Right.
The people that are just joining on Periscope, hello. We've got a viewer in Italy and one in Sweden right now. So thank you so much for joining us. In case you're wondering what we're talking about, this show right here is called The Intersection. If you go to my Twitter account, that's I am Elsa M. You can participate in the discussion. There's a link right there, and you can participate in the discussion and talk with us in real time via Google Hangsuite. So right now we're just talking about the Oscars coming on tonight. If you guys are watching it or not, Navarro and I are on different sides of the fence here. There's so much good stuff coming on Sunday nights. I'll catch it on YouTube, the little clips. I want Leo to win. If he wins, more power to him. I'm excited for him. And you know what? In what we were talking about too, in terms of Black actors showing up, of course, Chris Rock is actually hosting, but I just saw that, what's his name? Kevin Hart is going to be there as well. And you always know he's going to come with the real. So I'm sure that he's going to say something about the hashtag Oscar so white that will probably be trending for the next week or so. So we'll stay tuned to that.
And you're right. There's a lot on. I think Revolt has their Justice for Flint live stream concert tonight. So, everybody's trying to compete for a little airtime during Oscar night, which is all good, which we should. I mean, at the end of the day, if we don't think the Oscars gives it, why wouldn't we air something on the same night? But my point is, let's be consistent about it.
Heck, we got the intersection on the same night. What?
That's right. What? So tweet us, let us know what you think. If you're watching, if you're not watching, what are your thoughts? You've heard ours. So Elsa, what's next? What are we talking about? What's next on the list here?
Well, before we conclude, I want to definitely talk about Donald Trump and Chris Christie, aka Mr. Opportunist. Come on, man. Yesterday, what was it? Was it yesterday that Christie said, you know what? I endorse Trump. I'm throwing my weight, no pun intended. I'm throwing my weight behind Trump, and I want you guys all to support him as well. Keep in mind, in the past, he has said that that Trump does not have the temperament to be a presidential candidate, much less the president. This is coming from his own mouth several months ago. So now he is saying, hey, if you supported me, I'm out of the race now, but I want you to get behind Trump. This is the day before today. Today he went on air, Trump did. They were questioning him because he was just endorsed by David Duke and the KKK. And this fool right here had the nerve to say that he doesn't understand the KKK. He doesn't know David Duke. He feigned complete innocence. He would not disavow the group. He would not disavow that that endorsement from the KKK, saying that he doesn't know anything about white supremacists and he doesn't know anything about this group and that he needs to investigate them a little bit more before he says that he will not take their endorsement. And how can he say that he won't take their endorsement when he doesn't know anything about David Duke? I am sorry. One, you are lying. Two, even if you, let's say hell froze over and you are not lying. You are the dumbest presidential candidate, point blank. How do you not know what hate groups exist in the U.S. if you want to be the U.S. president? That makes no sense. This is just further proof that one, he's an idiot. Two, he's disingenuous. Three, he is dangerous. not only that, later on, he retweeted a quote from Mussolini talking about, I mean, like, just the parallels between Trump and Hitler and Trump and Mussolini. At first, it was a sick, crazy joke, and now it's a sick, crazy truth. Like, this is really happening in our country, and it is disturbing. It is really, really disturbing. So I'm going to try and calm down a little bit and let Navarro take it from here, because obviously this man has got my blood pressure up. I'm telling you, I was like, I love my state. I love where I live. I love my country. And this dude has got me looking at flights out. And I don't want to look at flights out. Can we just get rid of Trump, please? Can we be done?
Yeah, well, it's funny. So I'm from New Jersey. So let me start with Chris.
Oh, Christy. Oh.
So, the guy has been absent from the state since Bridgegate, since he got out of being prosecuted from blocking the access to the GWB, and comes back for 3 days, and then announces that he's supporting the guy that he said was a joke 2 weeks ago. And now what people don't realize is, this is his hidden bid to become the vice president, right? He saw.
It's not hidden. It is plain as day.
Well, Christie can't hide from anybody. Let's get that. Let's get that out there, right? He's not hiding from anybody. But at the end of the day, it's a shame, because it just shows you how wishy-washy and how poor the candidate choices are across the board. Because no one has convictions of their values, no one has convictions of their ideas, and they're willing to lump themselves together at a moment's notice. I would have given him more credit if he had waited a month or waited a week and said, "Hey, I've analyzed and watched them." But literally to go home for 3 days and jump on board with whoever's popular shows you how indecisive he would be if he had any crucial decisions to make. So, it really is unfortunate. I mean, the only good thing is for the Democrats is Democrats are definitely winning New Jersey now. You can guarantee that, no matter who they pick, because
I don't know if we can guarantee anything. This is the most unpredictable election that I have ever seen. Like, this is. Who would have ever thought 6 months ago that we'd be talking about the possibility, the sincere possibility of a President Trump?
I would have.
I mean, like, there's no way to.
Oh, wait a minute. Is that Jeff?
Oh, I'm gonna keep talking until he comes through. I don't trust it. I don't trust it. He's
Go ahead, Jeff.
I knew Donald Trump was going to be the nominee.
Oh, there we are. You did know.
Yep, I told everybody.
Is Jeff Johnson. Hold on, I'm trying to get you there.
You know how I know?
I can see you.
I don't know.
I just
we got your voice, but no video. Go up to the
better
top.
now? Can you see me now?
There you go. We're good.
There we go. All right.
So here's the thing. And then we talked about it a little bit last week, right? Like, there is a segment of this electorate that is so pissed off about the country that they think Barack Obama made, that these folks have been gearing up for the last 8 years to do anything they can. Like, literally, they believe taking back their country is real. Like, they literally believe that they lost their country to Obama, that they're losing their country to Latinos, that they're losing their country to people of color, and that they got to do everything they can to get that back. And the person that is going to do that for them is Donald Trump, because he's afraid of nobody. He's willing to say anything. He's got his own money, and they actually believe in some way, shape, or form that that's valid.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead, Elson.
You're fine, Navarro. Go ahead.
No, I agree with you. I think the scary part is, people spend so much time hating Barack Obama that anybody they think is going to take them in the direction in the opposite, they're willing to go behind. I mean, it's almost laughable. I mean, we were just talking about before you came.
But Navarro, if we're fair, and there are going to be some people that get pissed off about this, is that almost part of the reason that Obama won? Because part of the reason Obama won is because they were like anybody but Bush.
Right.
Well,
that makes sense.
A friend of mine, my friend Nolan told me today, he was like, basically what we have going on right now is the inverse of what we had 4 years ago, where people were voting for exactly what you said, Jeff. It was all this hope. I mean, Obama ran on this campaign of hope. There's got to be something better than what we got, so it's hope, hope, hope. And now it's the inverse. It's like you got the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other. Now it's hope to get our country back, and it's not our hope, but it's the hope of somebody's. And we were just talking about earlier how he was endorsed by the KKK and endorsed by David Duke, and then this dude goes on TV talking about, I don't know what a white supremacist is. I don't know anything about David Duke, and sincerely expects people to believe that. This I think the way he tries to play the country as idiots, as puppets, is insulting. Yet there are so many people that they have to know. They can't be this dumb, Jeff. They have to know that they're being played, but they're just sort of like, you know what? It sort of works in my favor, so let me be played.
Yeah, but I was gonna. Well, right. Being played is relative, right? Because being played implies that this person is doing something you don't want. And while Trump may not be able to do a number of things, there's an angry part of this country that thinks he's perfect, because he's going to say stuff that Cruz isn't going to say, and he's going to do stuff that Rubio's not going to do, and he is going to give the
nomination behind that. Because I felt like he had enough people in the Conservative Party that are distancing themselves away from Trump that I did not think that they would allow the nomination to happen. I thought that something would come through and they would rally behind somebody, and it would not be Trump. Because even now you'll get conservatives that are like, you know what, he's bad for the party, he's doing more harm than good, and we need to get him out. But the tide is sort of turning when you get people like Christie all of a sudden that are like, you know what, hey, not too shabby, let's get behind him finally.
Yeah, I mean, but I guess the rank and file have always been the ones that are more reasonable, because they're the ones that have to make government. And so if we're talking about some of these establishment Republicans who are angry, they're angry because at the end of the day, Trump gets in the way of making government. But these aren't the people that are showing up at his rallies.
Right.
We're talking about a totally different sect of Republican, right? So the Republicans that are showing up at his rally are pissed off people that want their country back. The people that you're talking about, Elle, are people that want to do government, that realize that Trump,
the nomination. And for me, I would think that the people who want to do government are going to determine who would get the nomination, not, the people that are at these rallies.
You think that after you've watched the last 6 years of this Congress?
I know, yeah. I know. I mean, I'm still on the hope train, man. I'm still on the.
I'm so sick of this. I just want to talk about entertainment. Let's talk about Kanye. To hell with the Republicans.
But it's so serious right now, Jeff. I mean, I feel like you and our roles have reversed, because normally I'm the one that's like, let's talk about some pop culture around here.
Yeah, but it's such theater. It's such theater, and I'm more interested. I'm more interested in seeing where we are after Super Tuesday.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but I feel like every moment it counts right now. Every single, I used to feel like that, where I was like, it's too early to be talking about all this. The players change all the time, and there's no consistency. But now there is consistency, and that consistency is scary as hell, because that consistency is more and more people rallying behind Trump, who is a modern day Hitler. He really, really is, and that is freaking frightening. I had a discussion today about the parallels. Is he really as crazy as Hitler? Is he? Yes, he is. Hitler had just as much charisma, if not more so, just as much as Trump did. Sort of said the same inflammatory things, but did not cross the line until he was in power. The minute he was in power, that's when it was like, let's kill everybody. I mean, you're selling Elle that you're saying that you think that Donald Trump is that extreme, that the moment that he's elected, that he's moving towards. In the first 6 months. I think in the first 6 months, I feel like our national security under Trump is in danger. I feel like the rest of the world can see the lunacy of this man, and if he is the leader of our country, that we're in some real trouble. We're in some real trouble.
Well, and that's why folks like you and others, I think, have to do the job they can to rally. Here's what I think. I think one of the greatest gifts that Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders could get is a Trump nomination. Because I think that there are people who are not excited about Hillary or Bernie that will come out to not see Trump be president.
I mean, I hope.
I mean, I think so. I mean, I think that there are people who are not Republican. I think there are people, frankly, who are Republican that would actually not vote for Trump because they don't believe that he's in the best. Like, to me, Trump is bad for the world. Trump's not bad for America. Trump is bad for the world. And I think that there are enough reasonable people that if he was the nominee, you would see come out in droves that potentially may not have been involved in the election.
But and that was my hope for the country, was that there are enough educated, smart people, passionate people where that we wouldn't even let him become the nominee. However, it looks like he's going to become the nominee. And that to me is one of those things where, my little Pollyanna bubble is burst. I thought there were more thinking people than that to allow that to happen.
Yeah, but I thought there were more thinking people that would, in the Academy, that would not allow the Oscars to be all white. So the fact that there are no black people who are nominated for an award tonight doesn't take away the talent of the people that are actually there. And I think that sometimes when we're looking at these primary numbers, that there's such a small reflection of the electorate because, number one, we don't turn out in huge numbers for primaries. By and large, you're talking about 30 to 40% of the electorate, which is a small number. And so in so many cases, we get skewed into believing that this small number, while it's important, because to your point, they determine who the nominee is, but they're not such a huge number that they can't be in a general election. They're not such a huge number that they actually represent the majority of the American electorate. They represent a more activated, angry, and frustrated electorate. And when you're able to move people out of fear, you're able to get that small, very active portion of the electorate to be more engaged than the reasonable, conscientious electorate.
Navarro, I'm sorry, we sort of went off.
Yeah, you know what? When we start talking politics, I just sit here and watch the sparks fly. So, Jeff, more of a question to you. So what does that mean? I mean, I think we all can confidently say, whether we agree with it or not, that it's going to be Trump and most likely Hillary, right? Unless Bernie Sanders does something incredible.
Or Navarro, unless there's something really tricky with the taxes.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think we can take that off the table yet. So you got Rubio and Cruz that released portions of their tax returns, and Trump has not. And I think that's going to be a real, I mean, similar to what it was for Kerry. Not Kerry, I'm sorry. Who ran against Obama in 12?
McCain?
Yeah.
12.
McCain? You hear me?
In 12.
Oh, in 12. I was like, who's paying attention to anybody but Obama in 12?
Gosh, I'm having such a brain fart. The wealthy guy. Romney, thank you. Lord have mercy. Romney's tax issues and how much he paid in taxes was such a big deal until he released those numbers. But Trump releasing those numbers, I think, is going to show some more shady dealings than what we saw with Romney.
Well, he said he was auditing, and that's the reason that he can't let this, let it or divulge his tax returns right now because he's in the middle of an audit and what we're doing.
I mean, that's what he says. But at the end of the day, the guy has filed bankruptcy at least 6 or 7 times in the last decade, right? And that's just.
I mean, who hasn't though? Yes, Jeff.
If you say so. Jeff, you went on mute, buddy. So check your settings and turn your mute off. But I think I think you're right. I think the point Jeff made was important, that we assume, to your point, your Pollyanna bubble assumes that actions are happening based on intelligence and common sense. And we've seen in the last 4 years that people have done more for spite than they've done for common sense or the good of the country. And I think what we're seeing now is the ultimate spite. Donald Trump is against everything and everybody, and we are against everything and everybody, so we're going to push that guy up and elevate him. I think common sense is out the window now. It's all about anger and hatred. I think you're right. I think anybody on a campaign trail who can say we're going to build up walls and shut out the Mexicans and get popular for that is an issue, right? No, we're skirting that fact that he's admitted that he's willing to discriminate against a certain large populace of the United States, and there's people out there that are like, great, let's do it, right? What is the state that we're in?
I just want to interrupt for a housekeeping note real quick. Some people are asking about where they can chat with us. If you're looking for the links, you can go to I am Elsa M or I am Navarro Wright or at Jeff's Nation on Twitter. The link to the Google Hang Suite is right there. And then if you actually want to chat with us, right underneath where you're watching in Google Hang Suite, there's a little, not forum, but I guess button where you can start chatting. So it's right there. It's like say something. So say something. We're right here. We'll take your chat messages.
Absolutely. If they post their chats there, we'll see them and we can respond to them. Or they can hit us on Twitter, hashtag The Intersection. We're monitoring those too.
We lost Jeff again.
Yeah, he'll be. I
feel bad that Jeff wanted to talk about entertainment because let me tell you, when we had this show before, The Intersection, a couple of years ago, and Jeff will tell you, there he is. I would love entertainment. I start out the show with entertainment. I would talk about every fluffy story that there was, and Jeff would sit there like this. Like he was not.
That's not totally true.
You were not feeling it, unless there was one random story that you would chime in. But he was sort of like, you know, wrap it up. You're going on, what, 2 minutes now. Let's get to the good stuff. Now, today, surprise, surprise, there's a whole new Jeff that wants to talk about entertainment.
So, Elsa, I'm curious because, you know, Jeff and I are both BT alumni in some way, shape, or form. Jeff, what are your thoughts about, you know, we can talk about the whole Oscars so white, but more importantly, all the networks rushing to create the Black Oscars this week. You had Russell with the All Deaf Digital Black Oscars, and then you had ABFF and BET kind of trumping him to run it out there. I mean, what are your thoughts on and everybody rushing now to create these Black Oscars?
Well, I think they realize the buying power of the African American audience. I think they recognize that we spend not only a ton of money, but in so many cases, we are tastemakers within popular culture in a way that no other community is. And the Oscars don't want to feel old. They don't want to feel disconnected. They don't want to feel racist. I mean, hell, there is a black woman that's head of the Academy. And, you know, this doesn't make her job easier, but I was blown today when I saw for the first time the Reggie Hudlin McDonald's commercial, where you got Reggie Hudlin, who is actually, if I'm not mistaken, directing the Oscars. And for those of you that don't know Reggie Hudlin was House Party, has done a number of other movies, worked at BET for a while. I mean, everybody in Hollywood knows Reginald Hudlin, and his family, for that matter, within entertainment. So I think, Navarro, there has not been a rush to create a black so white that it does irreparable harm.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
That last part, Jeff.
Yeah, repeat the last part. Your hotel Wi-Fi dropped on you for a second. Repeat the last part.
I said I don't think that there's a rush to make this a black Oscars. I think that there is a rush to do damage control and irreparable harm, because I think when you start having, you know, people can say what they want to about Will Smith's reasonings for not going to the Oscars. But this is the first time that I remember mainstream artists saying, I'm not doing this, I'm not going, in a long time. Mm-hmm. And I think that's dangerous for them. And it's dangerous for a number of reasons. And so I think that there are corporate entities, corporate interests that are attempting to do damage control in a way that the Academy can't until next year. I bet you next year is going to be a gang of black people that get nominated almost to a fault.
And that's another thing. I mean,
Wayne's going to get nominated for an Oscar.
Soul Plane 3 is going to get nominated.
You guys, that's not what we're talking. I mean, we talked about this earlier, Jeff, before you were on. you know, I am a Will Smith fan, however, and we talked about this offline, his accent was not good in Concussion. It was not. It
Yes,
was.
Elle, we know that you are representing the African contingency.
I have to. I told you, I'm an Ethiopian woman married to a Nigerian man. If you're going to do an accent, you better do it right, and that was done wrong. So I'm not saying Will is not an excellent actor. He is, but this role to be nominated, no. However, Idris Elba was amazing in Beast of No Nation. To not even get a nomination was, I mean, they know they were wrong for that. I'll end it there.
Yeah, and Jeff, you know, you made a good point. We talked about it earlier. My whole thing was I just have an issue with Jada's motivation. I question if Will's nominated for Concussion, does she make that video? Does she make that statement that we need to all rally together and make a statement, or was it more self-serving, right? Because from a historical standpoint, they haven't done it before, and I hear you about all the things converging. I think if someone else had did that video, then I would have felt that it was a little more authentic than her doing it after Will doesn't get nominated.
And my question is, does it matter what the impetus was? Does it matter that she was not authentic, but the movement itself is?
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, it does. And I'm not taking away from that. But I think, you know, as advocates, we need to be a little more strategic. Like, there should have been a Black Hollywood movie and said, Jada, no, let's not let you do it. Let somebody else do it so that we don't have those corollaries. I think it did damage it a little bit. But my thing, what I also said, is we have a thing when it comes to being advocates of something, of having peaks and valleys. What I want to see is what happens 2 weeks from now when the Oscars are over and people in Hollywood aren't getting cast for the roles that they shouldn't have been cast for. They're not getting the production deals they didn't. Is Black Hollywood really going to rally and make this a consistent thing going forward, or are we not going to hear about this again until next year to see whether or not we get nominated for more things in the Oscars?
But to your point, Navarro, is it Black Hollywood's job? I mean, at the end of the day, their job is to get work. We're the consumers. And so as consumers, I think that in a real way, it's our job to decide whether we're going to go hard or not. So I think you need the support of Black actors when consumers start going hard, because those voices are important. But you and I both know, and all three of us have been in too many situations where we've seen artists that have tried to take a stand, and the people don't rally, and those folks are left out there hanging to dry by themselves.
Right.
And everybody goes hard in their living room talking about, yeah, hashtag whatever. And then as soon as an artist, whether it's Will Smith or Jada or anybody else, leaves it all on the line, they're high and dry, and we're on to the next thing. So I think consumers have to go hard if you want to see Black Hollywood step up in a real way, because they are jeopardizing jobs and roles and opportunities every time they make a statement like that.
Well, I mean, you know, I think we have seen some steps in that case. You know, there's a lot of talk this week about, and I want to hear your thoughts about this, both of you guys, about the Blackest episode that dealt with police brutality, right? That you know, that's seen as being talked about probably more on the internet this week than anything else. And I think that's a great example of someone who has the ability to make an impact and doing it in a way that resonates. So I mean, what did you guys think about that? Was it a good thing? Was it a bad thing? Do we need to see more of it?
I think Blackish, I mean, I didn't watch it in real time. I just watched it the other day. I think they did a very good job explaining complex, not just complex issue, but just complex perspectives that not even everyone in the Black community looks at these situations the exact same way. I think that there's this perception that Black folks are just this homogeneous group. We think about everything the exact same way, especially when it comes to police brutality. And that was one thing that really struck me on Blackish is the way that the mother, Bo, viewed this issue, the way that their son, Junior, viewed the issue, the way that the father viewed the issue, the way the grandfather, every single person, 7 people in that room, if not more, had a different perspective. And I really appreciated that for the writers writing that, because it's difficult to do, but that is the actuality of it. I mean, it's not just one way that we all see
Right.
police brutality or these instances over and over again. I thought it was really, really telling for people that haven't seen the Blackish episode. You should. But it was really, really telling about how their daughter, and I'm forgetting her name right now, Zoe, how she reacted to this issue of police brutality when they're watching it on TV, and how you're watching it and you think she doesn't care and you think that she's just this flighty, pretty girl, but that is really, really affecting her on a way that she can't even articulate because she feels very hopeless. And I feel like a lot of our youth are walking around like Zoe, where they cannot articulate the pain or the fear that they're feeling, so they don't say anything, and people misconstrue that silence as a I don't care, when in actuality they're just sort of overwhelmed by the gravity of the situation that is playing out in their lives right now, when they thought that, well, you know, grandma and grandpa dealt with that, I don't have to deal with it. That was their generation. My generation's fine because I go to school with white and Asian and Hispanic and we're all friends, and it's this, you know, United Color of Benetton type world in my neighborhood and everything's all good. And then they see this on TV and they realize that, oh crap, we're still dealing with this. So I just thought it was really, really well written. And I thought that it was an episode that you can watch in mixed company and have it spurred a lot of conversation rather than a lot of argument. And that's really hard to do. I feel like Blackish, that the first pilot episode that came out, I didn't know how I was going to feel about it. And now, from the second episode on, has quickly become my favorite sitcom just because it's so smart and witty and really talks about current events in a way that is not polarizing.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I could say it any better than that.
That's great. Yeah.
And, yeah, I agree totally. And I think, not to be redundant, I think that what I'd like to see is a little bit more courageous writing in Hollywood, and it doesn't have to be just from black people. I think that the complexity issue is the thing that is missing in a lot of Hollywood writing, because we're still caught up in how do I get the black stereotype or the Latino stereotype or the Indian stereotype or the whatever stereotype, and not opening it up to the complexity that individual groups are incredibly complex in their own right, and that the writing and storytelling and character development, both on the big and small screen, should reflect that. And so my hope is that not just for black folks, but for art, that we lean on the complex, even in comedy, because that's the cool thing about it. Mm-hmm. Like, so often complexity comes in drama, right, and it's the dramatic content where you're able to show the complex black guy. But you know, I think that it's why I like House of Lies.
Yeah.
When I think about Don Cheadle and this house with 3 generations of black men, absolutely, that spit in the face of almost every traditional notion of what we see about black men in normal content. So I'm hoping that, and they've got great writers, I'm hoping that we can see that across the board, and hopefully a network show doing it raises the bar, because so often those complex characters are only created on HBO.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, I'll bring you guys your memory back to 2 points. One is, you know, Jeff, you mentioned before about consumers rallying behind Black Hollywood when they try to push boundaries and make change. I mean, you may remember the first episode of Blackish. I mean, people were literally boycotting, trying to get it off the air, saying it wasn't an accurate depiction of Black America, that it was too lily, you know, it was too corny, it was too lily white.
They did the same thing they did with the Cosby Show.
Well, let me say, I was not one to boycott. I was not saying boycott. I did not like that first episode because I felt like it just sort of hit you over the head with the premise so much. However, now I see why they did it. They had to sell it to the actual television station, to the network, to actually get picked up. And I think to sell it to the executives, you had to be heavy-handed in the theme for them to even get it. And then by episode 2, 3, 4, it tapered off, and you could digest it a little bit more. But that first episode, Navarro, you're right. I didn't boycott, but I was very vocal.
Yeah, but Navarro, your point's a good one, because I think when we start talking about the complexity issue, it's for us too. Like, black people are so quick to start talking about what's real black. Like, this isn't black enough, and that's not black enough, and this is an authentic story. And normally that means it's not my story, or it's not the story of the people that I came up with.
Right.
Because all of us remember, especially, I was a middle class kid, right? I grew up in the suburbs, and we was one check away from being in the hood. And it astounded me when people talked about how the Cosby Show wasn't realistic and how it didn't speak to the real black experience. But it just wasn't good times. And Negroes was just like, because it's not good times, it's not a real black experience. And I think we've seen that happen we see it happen over and over again on a regular basis. And so I think the complexity thing that Elle talked about isn't just for people outside of our community. Sometimes it really challenges our notion of the fact that there is this mosaic of the black experience, and that we should really embrace all of it instead of trying to have integrity wars over whose black experience is more legitimate than somebody else's.
I need you to put that on a postcard and send it to Ben Carson for me. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think I disagree with you a little bit about that first episode. I think, while it didn't appeal to everyone, I do think it showed a slice, to Jeff's point, about the multidimensional life of African Americans in the United States. I think about me growing up in Trenton, but I have some of my children have never spent a day in public school, but that's on purpose, because if we're going to be aspirational, then we want our kids to have that different experience. But what I think they've done a good job of showing is that even within that experience, we all have commonalities, right? Whether you make 2 figures, 3 figures, or 6 figures, when something like police brutality happens, it affects everyone across those lines. And I think we forget that, and our perspective is a little too narrow, and we cheer on the Real Housewives and the shows that show the ratchetness because we think we need to be real. But aspirational is real. Widen your perception of opportunity is real, and it's the black experience, because if it wasn't the case, you couldn't do what you do, Jeff couldn't do what he does, I couldn't do what I do, and we couldn't create those opportunities. So I think what they don't understand too, and we all know this being in entertainment, the effort it took to get Blackish on ABC in the first place was monumental, right? So sometimes we just have to rally behind things because they're there, and then push them to be quality. And it wasn't like it was trash. I mean, there's been some trashy shows that have made it up there that we've kind of wondered how, but it was a decent show. And we're so quick to knock stuff down for the wrong reasons, then we get mad when some of these award shows and stuff don't follow suit because we're not being advocates about it.
Or when they take the show off.
Something either, just because I'm so thirsty. Like I felt like that first episode, like I gave it a second chance because I could see the point that you just made, but I'm also not one just to drink whatever because I'm thirsty. Like it still needs to be some good water, gasoline. Like I need to make sure that it's something that's good for me, not just because there's a need. So I'm not saying that this was that situation, but I feel like sometimes we're so quick because there's so much of a drought. We're so quick just to be happy for whatever that we're getting that we're like, you know what, let's support it anyway. And all I'm saying is that not everything needs to be supported in that way.
No, I agree. I think we're saying my only point is that let us not be so quick, because we're not as quick with some of the lower level shows. That, and we just need to be a little more diverse about it.
Agreed. That's why I'm glad I gave it a second chance. I wouldn't be here now talking about how great it was had I not watched that second episode, and I almost did it.
I mean, to Jeff's point, brilliant writing, and they do it in a way that they don't have to stop being a comedy, but they can let you have current events and give you perspective. One more thing before we sign off, I want to touch on really quickly because I think it's important. I told you about this earlier. So people may not know, at Facebook's headquarters, they have these black chalkboard walls that say write something, right? I've been there a couple times. Anybody who comes in, whether you're visiting, your employee, you write what you're feeling. It's an example. It's a literal expression of the Facebook wall. So recently, somebody's been writing Black Lives Matter on that chalkboard wall, which is appropriate. There's not a huge amount of African Americans that work there, but there's a small percentage. And someone's been coming behind them and crossing that out. And apparently it's happened so many times that the CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, wrote a letter.
It.
Right, crossing it out and erasing it. Yes, and then
replacing it with an all lives matter.
All lives matter. You're absolutely right. Sorry. So and that's been the theme where people see Black Lives Matter and they were replaced with All Lives Matter. But this has happened so much that Mark Zuckerberg wrote a memo to the company saying that, hey, this is getting to be almost hateful, and we need to stop doing this, and that's not what we're about. And I think we need to look at this at two perspectives. I think it kind of speaks to the lack of diverse perspective in tech companies that everybody's been talking about, but also, I'm in technology, so I always think about what does that make the Black person, the Hispanic person feel who works at Facebook, who's given their time to recognize where they are, right? I mean, I think when we talk about, we talk about the Blackish episode and us having that commonality, I think there's a lot of people in the world that think they don't relate to the guy or gal who's an engineer at Facebook, but they're putting Black Lives, they're trying to make that statement, and they're realizing the environment that they're in. And I think it's important for people to see that. I thought it was impressive that Mark Zuckerberg made the statement, right? Because he kind of had to, but I think the way he articulated it was well, and the fact that he could make a statement, because I believe that that's happening in other tech companies and we're not hearing about it. So, I mean, Elle, what do you think? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten into this debate with some friends of mine with the Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter. And I feel like when you try and commandeer the Black Lives Matter and say All Lives Matters instead, not all life is under attack by police brutality in this way, and that's why the hashtag and movement Black Lives Matter started. So, I mean, just echoing what Mark said himself to his staff was that, you don't want to negate that experience, and by crossing out Black Lives Matter and putting All Lives Matter, it is negating that experience. And whether you mean to be malicious or not, it is malicious, because right now it ain't about you. Right now it's about the Black lives that are under attack. So I think anytime you have a CEO that's willing to put himself out there and speak on the side of what is right and what is just, I think that does a lot for your community. It does a lot for your employees. I know that my boss, I work for Yelp, so I know that my boss, Jeremy, has talked about being an advocate for gay rights and gay marriage. And I think that when you have a CEO that's willing to come out and talk about things that are sometimes uncomfortable, but it sets the tone for the community of people that you employ, where they feel like, okay, this is an accepting place, this is a loving place, this is a place where I can be myself. I think that Mark did that exact same thing for his employees. So in this day and age, there's just no time to be anything less than accepting and inclusive, especially in the workplace. Like, if you want people to be working their best for you, you have to accept them in all that they are.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think it was important that he made the statement. I just want people should understand that the struggles you're having at your job, people are having those same struggles, even at a place like Facebook. Because the numbers are off. And I think, again, the theme tonight has really been about commonality of thought. Like, regardless of where we are, there's some things that we share a common thread with. And I think it's important to understand that, because I think people reading that would be surprised that someone at Facebook wrote Black Lives Matter. They think they're too scared to write Black Lives Matter, or they have too much to lose. And I think everywhere everybody understands the importance of what's going on. So I was glad that it was brought to light. I definitely was.
Absolutely. Fully agree. Well,
so
we
squeezed a lot in here. We got a little cameo by Jeff. I
know. I love it. We got to get that guy some stronger Wi-Fi for Christmas.
You know what? If anybody from Verizon or Comcast is on the line, we can sponsor get Jeff Johnson some stable Wi-Fi.
You got jokes, yeah. We'll get them. But thank you guys all for tuning in, and of course we'll be tweeting out the YouTube link so that you can catch it on repeat. If you catch something on repeat on YouTube and you want to chime in, the conversation continues throughout the week on Twitter. You can tweet me at I am Elsa M, or Navarro at Navarro Wright. and Jeff at Jeff's Nation, and Ty at Ty Bo, like that.
Yep, and we're hoping after Fashion Week we'll have Ty on here to hear a whole nother perspective. We appreciate you guys joining us, and we'll see you next week on The Intersection.
All right, take care. Bye-bye, everybody.